Do my eyes look to have a little sparkle in them today? A little extra special sauce there? Well, it's because I finally saw a great film, snapping the stinker streak of Joker 2 and Megaflopolis. God bless. I saw Transformers 1. This has been one of the most highly requested things I've had all year. Like, second only to people requesting that I get taller or cut my hair. People really love this film. It has a lot of hype. And apparently it hasn't been performing that well at the box office, which is just a fucking shame. Because it lived up to the hype. I actually liked it a lot. I planned on seeing it 2 weeks ago when it came out, but unfortunately my ass was getting cooked like a Thanksgiving turkey by COVID. So I wasn't able to go, but I went and saw it today and I liked it a lot. I do think this is one of the better Transformers movies that's been made. Like, period. I'm not just talking about like animated Transformers. I mean like of all Transformers movies. It's just super solid. And I think the trailers and the marketing for this film did it a huge disservice. I think the reason why it hasn't gone like fucking Bazinga style at the box office is because a lot of people thought that this was purely a children's movie. Like all the marketing material made it seem like something you'd see on, Disney XD. And that's just not really what it is. When the first trailer dropped, that's what I thought it was. I thought it was mainly like a kids movie, which is fine, but it's not. The marketing team really did this dirty. Don't get it misconstrued though. This isn't like some kind of R-rated grimdark universe Transformers films for adults only. You're not going to have titties and blow and grease or anything here. You're not going to be watching Optimus Prime dealing with PTSD after witnessing war crimes or anything like heavy, but it is a film that can be enjoyed by anyone of all ages. Same way I feel about Puss in Boots Last Wish, Puss in Boots 2. That is a film that is just really good and just happens to be a family-friendly film. Now let's dive into the meat here. Transformers 1 is the origin story, basically, for Optimus Prime and Megatron. In this film, they're not Optimus Prime and Megatron yet. You see how they were like close friends. They started as fundamentally nothing. They were mining bots, and they go on this big buddy adventure, and it leads to what the characters eventually become. And what really works well for this movie is the characters are good. Not just Optimus and Megatron, but the surrounding characters as well. Like Bee, like Alita, like all of these characters are just fun. There's a lot of joke slinging back and forth, but not to like the criminally cringe level of Marvel where it's always there, even in moments that are supposed to be emotional. In this movie, yes, there is a ton of jokes. Yes, not all of them are going to land. But when there's an emotional beat, they don't bother to break it apart, wipe their ass with it like Marvel does by just throwing in like a little fucking half-baked AI-generated zinger. And I really appreciated that. That was very refreshing because I thought that's where this was going to go. It has a very simple plot, like it's nothing new. It's a story we've seen a million times, but now with Transformers. But it works super well because Optimus and Megatron, they build up that relationship really well in this film, and they tear it down really well too. So getting to like the climactic conclusion where we all know what's going to happen, we know what happens with Optimus and Megatron, they end up being at odds and they fight each other constantly. Getting to that point is such a good journey. There's a lot of really good action sequences in here, even like a really entertaining race that Optimus and Megatron enter, even though they can't transform. So they have to get really creative with how they try and win this race, and it's a huge fucking deal. And that entire sequence is really fucking fun. This is going to seem like an insult, but it did kind of remind me of Spy Kids 3D with that race, but done super well here. Like, I'm not using that to try and bring it down. It's just I love that. And that's always the first thing that pops in my head is that Spy Kids 3D race, that godforsaken sequence. But in Transformers 1, that race is so entertaining. Like, they're using jetpacks in the beginning. Then they're running on feet, but since they can't transform, they're getting fucking blasted by everyone. Then they have to use a couple of other really creative measures to try and get themselves back in the race. There's traps, there's obstacles. It's just a good ride. I've always had a soft spot for the Transformers property ever since I was addicted to Beast Wars as a kid growing up. So seeing a movie like this was just really refreshing. It really felt like a good time. And there's not a lot that I didn't like about it. Yeah, I wasn't, grabbing at my stomach like hearty har har laughing out loud at every joke or anything, but I was still highly entertained. And this is probably cope, but I'm hoping that now that we've had a movie about, the beginning of Cybertron and all that, maybe we can revisit games like War for Cybertron and Fall of Cybertron. Those games were such bangers, and it's a shame that they haven't received any kind of like remaster or anything. But I don't think that's going to happen just because of this movie or anything, but I wanted to throw that out there. Those games fucking slapped. Anyway, though, I liked Transformers 1 a lot. It lived up to the hype. I definitely think it's worth watching, for sure. Even if you're not a fan of Transformers, it's a fun, short movie, which is rare. You usually don't have any movies under 2 hours anymore. This one is not 2 hours, which is nice. It doesn't overstay its welcome. You get exactly what you want. A lot of action, a fun story, good characters, and it all looks great because the visuals are pretty top-notch for the movie. So yeah, Transformers 1, it was good. That's about it. So yeah. For so long now, I've been getting told, I've been getting yelled at that I need to watch Severance. People screaming from the mountaintops about how good this show is, people claiming it's one of the best shows ever made, and I always said, fiddlesticks. Like, I bet it's good. Like, yeah, I can definitely see it's good, but there's no way it's that good. It could never live up to this level of glaze. Just like a three-titted alien goth babe, I just didn't believe in it. Like, sure, it's probably a decent show, but I always kicked that can down the road saying, I'll watch it eventually. Well, eventually finally came. I caved in, and I really regret that I didn't watch this show sooner. Not only does it meet the extraordinary expectations I had for it based on this unbelievable gushing grannies movement surrounding it, it exceeds it. I haven't been this shocked by something since the first time I watched Two Girls, One Cup. Now, of course, it's very different kinds of shock here, but they do share similar DNA in that I can't stop eating the shit this show feeds me. I love it. I didn't know a single fucking thing about it going into it, and that was such a blessing. So the show revolves around this idea of severance, as the name would imply, and what it is, it's an operation where people can do a procedure where they get a chip put in their brain that will separate their work life from the rest of their life. So for 8 hours a day, their work life is a completely clean slate, a completely different person, but it's still you. But when your workday finishes, you have no memory at all at anything that happened in there, and your work self has none of your outside memories either. There's the innie and the outie. And this show plays with the really complicated issues that arise from this because, if you got your thinking caps on, you basically have trapped yourself down there, but it's not really you. Your outside conscience and your inside are totally separate people, and one of them is only ever alive when you are working. So all of their waking hours are just spent being a slave to Lumen, and they know nothing about the outside world except for the very few things Lumen tells them, which of course, maybe it's not the most trustworthy source. It is unbelievably well written. There is not a single character in this show I dislike, and I don't think I can say that for any other show. Even my favorite show, Breaking Bad, there are still a couple of characters I don't think were amazing. Severance, even the side characters fucking slap. Like Rickon. Rickon he's kind of like just a comic relief character for the most part, but even he has like an integral role in that he is a writer whose book, I don't want to get into any spoilers. I'm going to do my best to avoid spoilers here. But even characters that I feel like in the beginning were just going to be throwaway silly characters, like here's this dude who goes on, he's like, Rickon is basically like the most fedora-tipping, Reddit-coded, pretentious douchebag ever, but it's so over the top and actually like really well done to the point that it's not cringe, it's just straight up charming. Like, I actually really liked the guy. When he's being so quirky and zany, like, my wife's about to give birth. Mark, would you mind helping me hang the kelp? And then also, we need to start spilling our secrets out while she's giving birth so that way the baby knows that it's a clean atmosphere with no pollutants anymore because our secrets have been exorcised like demons. If you'll excuse me, I have a bit of a sore throat. I'm going to go rub my vocal folds with eucalyptus extract while I slip 2 fingers into my butt to tickle my prostate around and realign my chakras. Like that kind of shit. And like, when you see other characters in other shows do it, it's like eye-rolling. But in this show, it's like really entertaining. Like, the show's not a comedy. First and foremost, it's not a comedy, but there are a lot of jokes in it and really comedic moments that land, which is really refreshing. But the actual bread and butter of the show is its narrative and its characters that are constantly developing. Because basically what you're watching when you are seeing the Lumen employee side, the innies of our main cast, you're seeing blank slates, brainwashed slaves to this company that are starting to learn, like, what is it to be alive? Are we alive? What are we? And as they start to explore all of these concepts, it is expertly crafted. Like, there's a lot I want to say, but I don't want to spoil anything for anybody. This show takes this idea to its absolute fullest potential. And this is one of the only shows I can think of where I actually got so invested, I started talking at the TV. Like, it reminded me of my grandparents growing up when they were watching Young and the Restless, and they're like screaming like, no, why would you go back with him? What are you thinking? That kind of thing. I was getting that invested. The finale for season 1, I literally did the meme where I was like this, and then as the tension starts building, I'm pulling one of these. I'm locked the fuck in. This show builds tension better than any show I've ever watched. So the season 1 finale's hitting, and as it's starting to wrap up and like it's getting to this crescendo, I literally yelled, say it. Like, I was that invested, and if you've watched the show, you know exactly what I'm referring to. There is just so much to love about this show. The way it's filmed is beautiful. It has so many good shots. The camera work is stunning. Like, the setting at Lumen, it's eerie, it's sterile, it feels labyrinthian, it feels unnatural, but it also feels like it fits perfectly into this society that they've built, this universe that they have constructed. Everything works in this show. It's a show with more twists and turns than testicular torsion. It's a show that constantly keeps you on the edge of your fucking seat. Like, literally. Like, I couldn't help myself. My body was just actually, like, getting closer to the screen as these things start building upon themselves. And nothing ever feels like an ass pull. Everything feels so deliberate and so, like, intertwined that it's always satisfying. Like, the places they reach, it all is super sensical. There's no characters that make, like, bafflingly stupid choices. Some characters are going through some very personal struggles, like our main character, Mark. He's gone through a tragedy, which is what led him to doing this severed procedure in the first place, so that way he can spend 8 hours a day not thinking about the things that haunt him. And as he's starting to, like, struggle with this, even starting to grow from it, come to terms with it, he never does anything that feels, like, out of the realm of what a normal guy would do that has just been stricken with grief. So there's never any of those moments where, like, it's a huge leap in logic or anything. It's just so good. And I love the setting. Like, inside Lumen, they basically infantilize all of their innies. They basically just treat them like kids. Like, if you work real hard today, you're going to get some finger traps. Like, that's really cool. And keep up the good work. If you are really productive, we'll let you eat a single peanut. In fact, what about 5 minutes of a dance experience? And then they'll play, like, a record and then start hitting some little dance moves, which is actually a really pivotal moment in the show. Which brings me to my favorite character, Milchick. Milchick is a Lumen employee, and you're going to be seeing a lot of him in this show. He plays a very important role. The performances in this show are incredible. Milchick's, I think, is the best. He is able to tap dance on this line of being, like, really charismatic and really eerie, like, disturbing to a certain extent, where, like, he can flip this switch on and off from being, like, nice guy to, like, I'm gonna, like, fucking slit your throat. But he never really directly threatens anyone. He never fights anyone, at least not yet. I'm in the middle of season 2. But I haven't seen him fight anyone. He never throws hands. All he does is just go through Lumen policy with you. I don't mean to perturb you, Dylan. What is that? What just happened? What is that noise? This is what it sounds like at Lumen. Is Milchick hacking me right now? This has to be an ad that's playing somewhere, but where? Anyway, maybe that's like the music they use to play you off at the Oscars when the yapping's gone too long. I'll go ahead and stop going fucking ballistic bukakiing this. You need to watch Severance. I'm going to parrot what everyone else has said. This is a show that is a must watch. This is an absolute slapper. I can't even imagine something to dislike in this show. I can't even nitpick a complaint with this show. So it really is that good. I am loving this show. And I can't wait to see how season 2 ends. So yeah, anyway, that's about it. See ya. Expedition 33 is a new game that came out last week and has been received with the utmost enthusiasm. It's been getting glazed out the wazoo, a bukkake of compliments and accolades. I believe it's one of the highest rated user scores in all of Metacritic history, and also just one of the highest rated games ever in general. And for a lot of people, this came out of nowhere, like an RKO, people talking about it like it was a surprise that flew under the radar no one had heard of. And that may be true for most people, but I'm not most people. I've had my eyes glued to this puppy for the last 8 or so months since the very first trailer. It just seemed like the kind of game that would tickle all my favorite neurons, so I've had my peepers on it, and I expected big things from it. And it blew all of my expectations out of the water. This game deserves all of the hype and all of the success that it's receiving and more. Whatever you're expecting from all of the headlines, you get more. I couldn't imagine a game hooking me like this at my age. Now, I talk about myself like I'm some kind of geriatric fossil. I'm 30 years old, but I have not been hooked by a game like this in years. The last time I was so invested in a game where I would go around talking to every single character I could find in it was Mass Effect 2. And the last time that I was this addicted to a game, just wanting to play it all the time, was with Elden Ring. That's pretty good company to be in for both of those categories. This game is something special, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of people talking about how impressive it is that such a small studio made it. It's impressive by any metric, but the fact that a studio of only like 30 people made this is mind-boggling. I don't even know how it's possible. Now, of course, they did use like outside contractors, but the core studio is only like 30 or so people. The team is unbelievably talented. It's their first game together as a studio, and they hit an absolute grand salami here. This shit is in slapper. I mean, this was I couldn't be more happy with this game. So let's get into it. First and foremost, this does everything you want to see from modern gaming. Where right now the trend is make games more expensive for less content and then charge more later to like fix the game or make better content for it with DLCs and shit. This bucks that trend, and it's actually a cheaper game for more content. So it's a $45 game for about 60 hours worth of extremely high quality content. Even the side quests in this game are better than most games' main story. I did, like this, again, this is one of the few games where I couldn't help but start doing like 100% completion because it is just that good. Anyway, let's get into the game directly, the actual spaghetti and meatballs. Expedition 33 is a turn-based RPG with one of the best stories I've seen in gaming, fucking period. Now, I know it being turn-based has just made a lot of people roll their eyes and they're considering leaving the video because you just can't imagine stomaching the boring turn-based combat systems of the olden age that you think is outdated and archaic. You know, you're sitting there going, what the fart, dude? Turn-based? No thanks. I think you're a fucking goober for that take, and let me go ahead and try and sell you on this being different than whatever you're expecting from turn-based games. This game is significantly more interactive with its turn-based systems thanks to parrying and dodging. You'll see some people make the comparison to Souls games. I think that is way overblown. This has nothing in common with Souls games just because there's dodging and parrying, but it does make the combat feel a lot better because instead of being sitting around waiting for the other enemy for the enemy to attack you, and you either have to like hope for RNG for a miss, or you set up a turn so that way you can block or mitigate the damage. This doesn't have that. If you are good at this game, you can always forever take 0 damage through dodging and parrying. And there's also counters and another thing called gradients. So there's a lot of skill expression here where the parry timing and the dodge window is unforgiving. Assuming you play on expert. Normal, it's a lot more forgiving, but on expert, it is tight timing. Like the parry timing in here isn't quite to Sekiro's level of unforgiveness, but it is not easy. Like the parry window demands that you be actually good at this game instead of just like some fucking lobotomite that's hammering parry, just spamming it. Dodging is a little more forgiving, but even that is still difficult because the enemy's attacks, like their actual arsenal of moves, is so well designed. The combat is flashy and it is interactive. Like I know people have been seeing the quick time events when you use a move. You do have like a timing window. If you hit a perfect, it'll help you out with that move and what it does. But the quick time events aren't the actual interactive nature of the game. That's just there as kind of like a little bonus, a cherry on top to keep you invested on both offense and defense. And it is something nice. It adds more depth to it. But the actual bread and butter of the interactivity of the turn-based is in the dodging and the parrying. Because again, if you are just good, you can be unkillable by everything in the game, fundamentally. And another thing is the build variety. There are so many builds for your party that you can run, it is mind-boggling. I've spent hours just making builds for my characters. So you build through things called pictos. So you can unlock skills, sure, but the main bread and butter of a build is the pictos, which are these cards that you'll pick up throughout the world or through fights that'll do things like crit on burn. So if you burn an enemy, you'll get like an increased percentage chance of critting, or it'll do like completely game-changing things. Like there's a really fun synergy with something called auto death, where if you equip that picto, your character will instantly die. But then there's another picto called second chance, which will instantly revive them. And then there's buffs you can give your whole team if a character dies. So what you do is you put auto death on a character that gives out all of these buffs to your party, and then that character revives, and just everyone's got these buffs, and now everyone's super fucking strong. There's just so much creativity to the builds here, and it changes from character to character with what you want to do for them. There's also a free aim mechanic with all of your characters, where you can turn it into a third-person shooter for the cost of AP, where you can target weak spots on the enemies, or I even made an entire build around free aim for one of my characters, where he was just chunking like a fucking Gatling gun, where he's recharging his AP thanks to the pictos I put on there. So I'm just constantly shooting over and over and over again, just stacking up millions of damage. Like, I just love how much flexibility there is with builds in this game. I was hitting over 100 million damage by the end, just through so many different pictos and combinations of skills. It was just actually super fun to engage with this system in a meaningful way. Like, there's so much min-maxing here and just so much meat on its bones. So I really think this is the best turn-based system for, like, in this genre. I really think this is the absolute cream of the crop. So for people that don't like turn-based, I think you're doing yourself a disservice by just writing this one off because of that. This is an experience that I really think will resonate with anyone who gives it a chance. It is just a beautiful story, and it is one of the most visually impressive games I've ever seen. The art design, like the direction, oh my god, it is fucking cinema. Like, absolute peak. The cutscenes are hype. The enemies look incredible, and they're super creative. The world, the environment, every zone you visit. So like, there's this overworld. So when you're walking through the map, you'll find like a ton of different like enemies to encounter, like bosses, as well as like different zones, and all of them are so visually interesting and just unreal, like breathtaking. And the music, holy shit, the music in this game, this is a 100% shoe-in to win Best OST this year. There is no game that I think will even come close. The soundtrack for this game is one of the best. I would comfortably put this up there with Nier. This is 100% a soundtrack that's going to be winning a lot of awards that it deserves, and it will be a soundtrack that I think will be talked about for years to come. Now, I want to give you like the overview of the story without any spoilers, because I really don't want to even drop like the tiniest breadcrumb of a spoiler here. So in a nutshell, the story takes place in a world where people live in a place called Lumiere, and there is a giant monolith with a giant creature, the paintress, sitting in front of it, and every year she paints a number on that monolith. After a year, that number gets erased and everyone of that age dies, and every year the number gets lower. So if you've got your thinking caps on, you'll recognize that there's a certain amount of time left for these inhabitants of this world to survive. So they go on these expeditions to try and kill the paintress so she stops painting those numbers and having everyone of that age just evaporating. It's gone on for many, many years, and no one's successfully been able to kill her, so the society starts to just accept that this is a way of life, so people live under the assumption that they only get to spend a handful of years with their kids because they're dying at the age of like 34, 35. They're just getting fucking snapped out of existence because of the paintress painting that number on the monolith. We follow Expedition 33, our main character being Gustav, as we venture out to try and kill the paintress. Everyone on the expedition only has a year left for the most part, and they want to put a stop to this cycle so that way people can finally live. There's nothing but tragedy in this world because of the paintress, and they want to put it into it. And they also want to understand why. What's it all for? Why is the paintress doing this? It's just incredible. I think this story will hook you within the first 30 minutes. This has one of the best intros in any game I've ever seen. This is actually up there with like the first Last of Us in terms of emotional, hard-hitting introductions to a game. I think people will immediately get invested into this world and its characters. It is one of the best written games I can think of off the top of my head in the modern age. I love the story. It doesn't have any cheesy cliche writing. Characters aren't just super quippy for the sake of like these really silly jokes. Like, yes, there's some comedic moments here, but they're few and far between, so when the comedy is there, it actually hits. This is finally a game that doesn't just follow the same formula of writing that everything else does, where it's just all so safe and Weenie Hut Jr. This is a game that's not afraid to be dark. It's not afraid to be a slow burn and build up of tension and anxiety and mystery. It doesn't just fucking vomit out everything about its world immediately and all of its exposition. It is totally fine to let you wait 20, 23, 25 hours before you finally get most of the pieces of the puzzle to this mystery and this world that you're in. And it feels so good when you do finally get that information. And as it builds up to it, it keeps feeding you these tiddlywinks, so you start coming up with your own theories on what's going on and what it all means. It is so good. The writing in this game is superb. Absolutely extraordinary stuff. None of the characters are unlikable. There is not a single character in this game that I didn't love. There is pretty much nothing I dislike in this game. I had early complaints about like the movement being a little clunky, but the game seems to lean into that in a way that it actually kind of complements it. So the movement is almost identical to Only Up. And I mean that genuinely. Like the sprinting and the jumping is pretty much one-to-one. They even have little side quests where you do Only Up courses at these places called gestural beaches, and you get rewards for completing the Only Up minigames. So it seems like they knew that, leaned into it, and the way the world is designed, like the map's actually set up, I don't think it's ever like a detriment that the movement isn't super clean. Like, it does feel a little janky with the movement, but because of the way they've designed all the maps, it works. So, like, by the mid-game, I no longer had that complaint because everything felt fine with it. It wasn't, like, inhibiting my enjoyment of exploring or anything. Like, I do think there is definitely a way they could have cleaned up the movement, but again, it's not even really a complaint because they were able to utilize it well, and I had a lot of fun with the Only Up components. I also really did have a problem early on with the subtitles always having a blur on them. I really wish I could have turned that off. I don't know why. That was just a little pet peeve of mine, having blurs on subtitles. Well, the subtitles aren't blurred, but like the background on subtitles blurring the things around it. I don't know. I just don't really like that all that much, but obviously that's like the smallest possible complaint you could ever have for something. The only other thing that wasn't like perfect was the lip syncing. The lip syncing was not amazing at points. I think during all the cutscenes it was totally fine and great, but during like a lot of the side stuff you'd notice the lip syncing wasn't always matching, which again, super tiny complaint. Like this game is so close to perfect actually, to the point where I almost feel bad for Sandfall Interactive, the developers here, because they have made something so unbelievably good that their next project is going to have so many eyes and such high expectations on it. I really don't know how you can even top a game like this. I have a lot of faith in this team now because of how good this game is, but man, it is a daunting task to have something this good as your first project. Like, there's so little to improve on. It really is that close to just being the perfect turn-based RPG experience. I love this game. I think this is easily a Game of the Year contender. Easily a contender for Game of the Year. If it's not in the conversation for Game of the Year, something is truly wrong with the industry. It is corrupt and foul, rotten to the core. I absolutely love this game. It is comfortably in the top 20 best games I've ever played. It is in my top 20 favorite games of all time. I love Expedition 33. I could gush about this for hours, like actually talking about the story and stuff, but I don't want to get into any spoilers or anything, but there's just so much to unpack with it, so much to talk about. It's such a beautifully tragic, enthralling experience. So, yes, I think this game lives up to the hype. I think it exceeds it in every possible aspect. Expedition 33 is a masterpiece. That's about it. So, yeah. Once again, we have a film debuting with more glaze than a donut, with a Rotten Tomatoes score that breaks the charts and sets the new franchise all-time high. with 28 years later coming in at like a 95 or 96%, something like that. And I'm just going to tell you right now, sports fans, I don't think that score makes a whole lot of sense for this film. I don't think it lives up to that level of hype. But we're in this era now where anytime something good comes out, it seems like everyone has to push it to be like the highest rated thing. I just yapped about this with Predator Killer of Killers, which also had the all-time high for its franchise, even though I think it is not the best in the franchise, certainly not in like the deep 90s, almost perfect film. It was a good movie. I liked it. Had plenty of flaws. And I feel the same way about 28 years later. Good movie. I liked it. Plenty of flaws. Let's just dive right in here. Time to get into the fucking spaghetti and the meatballs. I don't know if it's a hot take because I don't really know how people are going to respond to this film, because it does seem like there is a lot in here that is meant for critics to enjoy and like kind of pick apart in terms of like its editing. It has like really fast-paced, very abstract editing and like symbolism, obviously very deeply weaved into a lot of its shots. And I don't know how that's going to land with a lot of audiences, because a lot of times the things that they set up there, like those little building blocks, they never actually finish constructing anything out of it. So they'll just show you like an abstract scene and then really not have that build to anything or actually have any like emotional tie-in to anything. It was just kind of like a odd, peculiar moment for the sake of it, it feels like. Best example, without getting into spoilers, I'm going to get into spoilers in a little bit. Without getting into spoilers, there's like this thing the film does quite a bit in the beginning where it's like splicing old 80s and 70s footage in, like, or like medieval footage where they're like shooting arrows, and it's meant to parallel the society that we follow in 28 years later where they're also shooting arrows. And it's like, okay, I get it, but what the fuck did that add? Like, I guess it's creative to have it go like side by side and fade into each other, but it's kind of just goofy. You just have like this old footage of like people in Party City costumes shooting bows and arrows for this old footage that we're splicing into this movie for the scenes they're shooting arrows. Like, I get it. Just kind of lame though. The weirdest editing sin this movie commits that I really can't understand the thought process behind was it'll do these, not bullet time, because it's not bullet time, they don't like slow-mo the arrows being shot, but there'll be numerous times in the middle of a fight, they're fighting off infected, shooting arrows at it, and they'll get like a headshot. So like Jamie headshots an infected, it'll zoom in and freeze, so the headshot hits and then freeze, and then it'll change camera while it's still frozen, and then the body will hit the ground. Like, why? Why would you do that? Like, I felt like I was about to see like a fucking Scott Pilgrim comic book effects pop up on screen going blam, boom, kablooky, kersh, that kind of stuff. Like, it was really weird and just felt out of place. It felt like he wanted to have some quirky editing in this film for the sake of being zany. That's not to say that all of those editing decisions are bad. There's some really cool shots in here and some very creative editing. But I do think there was this, like, fixation on trying to make everything kind of abstract and a bit odd. And I feel like that's there for critic bait, more so than it is for a normal audience enjoyment. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe a lot of people are going to really like the bow and arrow bullet time moments. Like, maybe they want to see, like, that Call of Duty final kill cam. Just wasn't for me. I just thought it was kind of silly. But anyway, like I said, I do like the movie. I think it is a good movie. Great performances across the board. Spike is the main character here. He's the son of Jamie, and Spike is going on a big quest to try and get his mother some help because she is sick, and he wants to save her. And we follow his journey from getting his first kills in the mainland to then braving it all himself to save his mother. And I really think that it is a very compelling, very emotionally charged journey that they nail. Now, when it comes to its story, I will mention it seems like they have completely wiped their ass with 28 weeks later. I don't know if it's been fully retconned or what. I don't understand how 28 weeks later fits into what we see in 28 years later. But maybe they'll explore it more in the sequel to try and make the puzzle pieces fit a little better, but feels like that's been abandoned and it's following something pretty different here in terms of the lore of the 28 Days universe. which is fine because in the context of this film, it works. I think it works really well. We get to see some very new things to the franchise that I think hit. I think the action was good, even with the bullet time silliness. I think they did a really great job at making every scene with the infected intense. We see a bunch of different infected, some fat ones, some fast ones, and even the alpha. Alpha was very cool. I thought the alpha infected that they showed off a couple times was an absolute banger. He even had a signature move. For some reason, the alpha infected love ripping people's heads off and like keeping their vertebrae and everything intact to use it as a weapon. Actually shit you see out of Mortal Kombat. That is literally a fatality in Mortal Kombat, and that was his anime finishing move that he loved to utilize. It was cool. Every time that they had to fight off the infected, they did a great job at making it very, very intense. Like, times where you think they're getting away, maybe not. Times where you think there's no way out of it, there probably isn't. Like, they do a really fantastic job at getting you, like, on the edge of your seat when the infected are on screen. And they're on screen a lot. It's not like they take a back seat to everything else. They are front and center, for the most part. So, I was happy with the film. I did like it. But I do want to get into my big-time complaints here, and to do that, I'm going to have to get into spoilers. This is your big spoiler warning. Huge spoiler warning. Here it is. And now it's over. This movie's tone shifts drastically numerous times. It feels like there were conflicting ideas for what this film should be, and instead of trying to meet somewhere in the middle to try and, like, work them together, they just fucking shoved them together and said, fuck it, we'll do it live. It doesn't matter if it, like, works super well. Like, it's not cohesive, is what I'm trying to say. What I mean by this, you have the first half, which is very intense, and it's a little on the slower side, of course, outside of, like, the big intro where you have a lot that happens, but then it gets a little slower as you get more of the pieces set up, and then you'll have this really great journey, and then when you have the infected come in, it's very intense. You're seeing him, Spike, get his first kills. The sound design is really good, like all the weird sloshing and gurgling noises from the infected is unnerving. Everything is great there. And then you get to like the second half of the film where they try and do something a little different, where they have this side plot with a pregnant infected, and then they meet this doctor. And the doctor, I think, is a good character, but it does kind of come out of nowhere here, and it is a bit of a weird thing to throw in, but he has some very moving moments in this movie, some very moving moments. And this doctor's talking about the magic of the placenta and this, like, miracle birth of the infected baby, or not even really a miracle birth, because he kind of writes it off as, like, kind of expected this to happen. Actually, this was something that I had on my bingo card. So, like, it's not even that big of a deal to him, even though the movie's setting this whole thing up as, like, a big deal, and then the alpha's hunting to try and get his baby back. And it doesn't really, like, I don't think it did much. It was just, like, a huge, like, weird tangent from what we'd been following with the emotional journey of Spike and his mother. And another thing that adds to this tonal whiplash is this new character they also introduce, which is Eric, who is a soldier who ends up stranded there, and all of his squad is wiped out by the infected after their ship crashed, and they were doing like the quarantine patrol, but they hit something, they said, and then they washed up on shore and then had to fight to survive. He's the only one that made it. He's making a bunch of jokes, so he becomes the comic relief character, just making wisecracks like, you guys probably don't even know what the internet is here, do you? Primitive. That kind of thing. Because he saves them, and then he joins them, and then he's like immediately killed off, so it doesn't even go anywhere. It just, once again, like changes the whole tone and focus of the movie. It just felt weird to go back and forth like that. But by far, the most egregious problem with this film is its ending. Its ending is, I think it is one of the most surprisingly stupid endings I've seen maybe in the last, like, 5 years. I'm trying to think of something in recent memory stupider than this. I'd put this onto, like, almost Moonfall level of unexpected lunacy. The film ends with, I'm trying not to spoil everything here, but the film ends with Spike going through, like, this change. Now, instead of being the scared kid we saw at the beginning, he's gone through so much hardship, he's learned so much after everything with his mother and the doctor. He now wants to be on his own out in the mainland, away from the shelter, to kind of just brave it all on his own and get after it. And it's a decision that I think makes sense for Spike. Like, I think that is a strong character arc. And while he's doing this, he gets attacked by some infected. They come running at him like the Titans from Attack on Titan. He shoots them with arrows, but he's about to be overrun. And then a guy pops out, and he's basically a fucking cartoon character. The guy pops out, his name's Jimmy, and he's like, "Great shooting, Tex, but I think there's a little too many for you. Mind if we step in?" And I shit you not, he summons the Power Rangers. He summons ninjas. And what they do is they come in with melee weapons like spears and like even doohickeys, like gadgets that'll like go-go gadget extendo weapons, so they'll make like a chain in between there. And they just start like meleeing all of the infected, but not just melee them, they're doing like an acrobatic showcase. It's like a Cirque du Soleil performance. So they're like jumping off walls, they're doing flips. They're literally doing flips while killing them, and they're doing like somersaults, and then when they finish, oh, and not only that, they have like a metal music playing. I'm using that lightly. It's basically just some chugs on the guitar, and it's supposed to be the Teletubbies theme. And then when they finish it off, they do a pose, which is this. They go, ha! Like that. They all do that pose, and they're all named Jimmy. So it's a cult. And this cult is something that was a seed that was planted throughout the movie with Jimmy. You see his name on a building once, and in the very beginning of the film, the opening sequence with the kids where they get slaughtered by the infected, those kids are these individuals. So the idea is they are likely infected, so they're enhanced, and now they are this cult that is recruiting Spike into their ranks. The theater was giggling when this was happening. It is so out of nowhere and so different from everything this movie had been doing up to this point that it just felt like a joke. It was a weird decision to end the movie with that. I really don't understand why. And like, it doesn't make me hype for the sequel. Because if that's going to be the energy of the sequel, it's really not why I like the franchise. I don't really want to see them doing somersaults and backflips and hitting karate and kung fu on infected. That just, I don't know, it's dumb, I thought. I thought the ending was just terrible. Like, I thought it was really terrible. It doesn't ruin the movie for me or anything. Like I said, I still really do like 28 Years Later, but it was very different than what I was expecting. In some ways, positively, but in quite a few ways, negatively as well. I definitely don't think it's the best in the 28 Days Later franchise. I definitely don't think it's a 95 or 96% on Rotten Tomatoes level of quality here. I think it was good. I think it was a good movie. I enjoyed it. And yeah, that's really about it. So yeah. Alright, here we go again. It looks like Charles has a bit of a hot take on a beloved new film that just came out. 31-year-old man still has to go against the grain the old-fashioned way. But I can't help it. I'm a little sea turtle fighting the tide here, going the other direction on it a little bit. Weapons. Debuted at 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. People hyping and glazing it out the wazoo about it being like the best horror movie ever. Which I think is more of a curse than a blessing. It reminds me of Long Legs, how like a core component of its marketing was, hope you brought your diaper, cause you're pissing in it with how scary this one is. You're gonna be sucking on your thumb till you pop that bitch right off your hand. It's too scary. What are we doing? We shouldn't even release movies this scary. And then I saw Long Legs and it was just fine. And with Weapons, the hype is not quite to that level, but, 100% Rotten Tomatoes, people, of course, going ballistic for it with how incredible it is. I've never seen a horror movie like this. I've just seen it. Kind of feel the same way I did about Long Legs. Like, it's fine. Like, I enjoyed it. I had a good time. But, man, oh man, is it not nearly to the level that a lot of people are portraying it as, at least not in my eyes. Not that I let the hype really skew my thoughts on things. I just thought it was worth mentioning that, to me, this film isn't what people are gassing it up as. It's a horror movie, sure, but I would actually argue it's more of a comedy. Like, and I don't think people are aware of that. We're going to get into spoilers, of course. I do spoilers now when reviewing things, so this is your warning there. I would say there's actually more comedic elements to this film than there are horror elements. Like, the actual plot and a lot of the things that happen, very clearly supposed to give you the heebie-jeebies, but all of it is undercut with comedy and humor, even in the most tense situations. It's like the MCU of horror. So, like, you'll have something that is clearly like, wow, this is going to be, like, scary. Oh my god, we have built up to this huge tense moment. And then they play it off as a joke, especially at the end of the movie. I'm going to get to that here in a little bit. And it was fine. Like, I don't hate that, but it's not really a horror when it's not taking itself seriously. You know what I mean? Anyway, I really like this director, Zach Kreger. He, of course, I liked his work in The Whitest Kid You Know, but he really surprised me with Barbarian. Barbarian is a film I saw on a whim, and I was blown away by with how interesting it was and just how much I ended up really enjoying it. So, like, I was very hyped to see this as well, and I do like it. I just didn't love it like I was hoping I would. And I think a lot of people are expecting this to be one thing when it's really not that thing. Like, I think they're going to get something completely different than what they're expecting. And for some people that might be nice, for others it might be a bit of a letdown. In my theater in particular, this isn't just me being like, big tough macho man, no movie scare Charlie, he too strong for a movie to make him scared. I mean, like, this is actually, like, I'm pretty sure by design supposed to make you laugh. Everyone in my theater was laughing a lot in this movie. More so than there were, like, any kind of, like, on edge frights from people. Nobody, like, gasped or anything. Like, it really felt like most people were there having a hoot and a holler at it. And I think it's not laughing at the film, it's with it. Like I said, it feels like it's supposed to be more of like this unserious take on a horror movie when everyone else seems to be talking about it as just like a full-blown horror film. So I want to kind of set the record straight on that. Anyway, the film has a really interesting premise. Everyone's talked about that a lot. It's about this town where, for some reason, mysteriously at 2:17 a.m., an entire classroom of kids all gets up in the middle of the night, goes downstairs, walks out the front door, and disappears into the night. They run away, and they run away with their arms at their side, and it's really weird. They're running like the Titans from Attack on Titan. A month goes by, they still have no leads, can't figure it out. Of course, the parents are distraught. The town's still trying to, recover from this because everyone's on edge about it. And now we follow the core characters, one being the teacher of that classroom where all the students except for one disappeared. We then follow some other characters like one of the parents, and it's a really interesting way of telling the story because you go through some scenes multiple times from other characters' perspectives, which fill in a lot of the blanks. And I thought it was really creative. I thought it was very fun. It actually reminded me of something like out of a video game, like almost Until Dawn-esque to a certain extent. Like, I thought that was a really cool idea to visit these things from a different character's eyes, like chapters in this movie. I thought that worked extraordinarily well because you get so many different pieces of this puzzle through so many different lenses that all, of course, meet at the end. Everything comes together. And I just thought that was really smart. I also really like the way the movie's filmed. I've seen a lot of like people praising the cinematography going into this film, and I think it definitely deserves that. It is like a really well shot movie. They have some really creative scenes that are shot in a really interesting manner. It's not all just like the standard by the book formula that horror movies follow, or I guess comedies by that extension. I thought they got very creative with their shots. It's clear they were having a lot of fun. The performances across the board I thought were super strong as well, especially with Justine. She's the teacher of that classroom where all the students vanished at 2:17 a.m. where they all ran away. And the whole town hates her. They torment her. She's ostracized. They think she had something to do with it, is withholding information, maybe even just she, mastermind the whole thing. And then you start getting these questions in your head about, well, where is this going to go? And then you'll go to the next chapter and you'll see a character that initially you don't really see how that ties in anywhere. And then all of a sudden, bang, eureka, this is where it's leading. But this is one of my big holdups with the film. The questions that you have, the answers the movie gives you aren't all that interesting. Like, the questions themselves and the premise of the film are so strong. Like, the mystery of it, the thrill of trying to solve it, trying to see where it all leads, and then when you get to where it leads, it's a little unfulfilling. Like, I feel like it's just a little underwhelming, especially because the final act, as I mentioned earlier, is played off as a joke. That kind of takes a lot of wind out of the sails. You spend the whole movie with this mystery and these questions, only to then meet the big scary entity, which is just an old sick lady with a magic tree. And she has badly put on makeup with this wacky, zany wig. It's like a Ronald McDonald wig. It looks like Chucky Finster if he went to the worst barber on the East Coast. And she, like, jump scares you occasionally throughout the film. And that's, like, the main horror, is they rely on her being, like, the jump scare moment. So, like, Josh Brolin, when he's looking for his kid, he goes into, like, the dream space. Like, he's in a nightmare chasing his son, Matthew. And as he's telling his son, Matthew, I know I never said I love you enough, but I really do love you, son. Then all of a sudden, he looks at his son's face, and it's that old lady. Her name's Gladys, and she's like, ah! And, like, she does that a couple times. She's, like, the thing bringing horror to the movie, because without her doing that, sometimes it's just not really present. Like I said, it really is more of, like, a dark comedy kind of film as opposed to, like, a horror film, not to, like, split hairs. But then, as you have all these questions that you spend like an hour and a half, stewing on, trying to piece it together, and you go through a bunch of different characters' perspectives, then one character meets Gladys, and then all the answers start coming in. Gladys is the big bad, and it's just kind of underwhelming, because from that point forward, a lot of what Gladys does gets played off comedically, unfortunately. But it's not just her. Every time there is, like, a horror sequence playing out, they undercut it with humor. So, for example, Justine is spying on a house where she believes there might be something fishy afoot. And then she falls asleep in her car, and while she's passed out, the door opens, and a lady comes out, and she's holding scissors, and she's walking weird. She's walking real weird, and she's literally walking like Doodle Bob, actually. And she gets to the car, she's right by the window, and then she just, like, kind of walks away, like Crab walks away. The theater laughed really hard when that happened. And then the back seat opens, or the back door opens, and you can hear her get into the car. And then it's, like, tense. It's like, oh, okay, this is, like, a good tense moment. And then she leans over and cuts some hair, and then the theater laughed again. So, like, they took a horror moment, made it silly, then brought some kind of, like, horror life into it, where it's like, oh, this is about to be, like, kind of intense, like, what's about to happen? And then played a joke again on it. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm trying to say? It's like, it does have horror, and when it's there, it's executed pretty well. Like, I think there's, like, some solid scenes, but they always take the wind out of the sails of the horror aspect in order to play a joke into it. Now, granted, the joke is solid too, like, it was clearly landing with the audience, but I feel like a lot of people might find that to be annoying or not what they signed up for. For me, I didn't care that much. Like, I thought it was fine. Definitely different, for sure. And I was still entertained. Especially because in the last act, they don't even try to make it scary. They literally play it as, like, almost a slapstick comedy skit. In the end, they piece together the mystery, which, by the way they figured out where the kids were, to me, felt like they kind of wrote themselves into a corner and then couldn't figure out, like, a good way of getting there. Basically, they were able to connect the dots, like the pose that they were running in, and after another guy goes crazy while doing that pose, they then, Josh Brolin's character, tracked the trajectory, and then Justine was like, oh, that's the house of, like, that one lone survivor kid, like the one kid that didn't run away. Probably something about that house, and it's a house she previously visited, like with the scissors and shit. So they figured it out because of the pose, but the authorities, like, scrubbed over this footage a lot, and there's even this montage sequence they showed where all the kids were running in a group together in front of houses, literally triggering motion sensor lights and everything. They were running in groups to this house. I feel like the Ring doorbells would have absolutely caught them running in groups, and they probably would have been able to find them far, far sooner. I don't know how they would have missed that. Like, they made a mention, like, the Ring doorbells only caught them, like, running into the night, but they passed so many houses in groups. Like, I feel like that footage would have absolutely existed. They could have easily tracked that trajectory. Like, I don't think it would just be Josh Brolin that would somehow figure out, like, it's kind of weird that they're all doing the same pose. Maybe they were running somewhere. Especially when you would couple that with these groups of kids that no doubt would have been caught on all these cameras from all of these houses that they're running in front of and triggering all the motion detection. Like, I don't know. But anyway, they find the house, they go to the house. And they're, like, in the house, and she can control people with her magic tree, so she has, like, bodyguards of people that she's controlled. That's how she got the kids, because she mind-controlled them to, go hang out in the basement. And while they're there, trying to save these kids, two people that she's controlled, one of them being a junkie, start attacking Justine and Josh Brolin. I don't know why I'm calling Julia Gardner's character by her character name and Josh Brolin instead of his character name, calling him Josh Brolin, but whatever. They're there, and they get, of course, ganked by her bodyguards that she's controlling. And I shit you not, one of the bodyguards, Josh Brolin punches, and he gets knocked out. And then he gets up again, he punches him, and he goes, geez, what the hell? He gets knocked out. The guy gets up again, punches him again, knocks him out. And by this point, the theater is like actually erupting into laughter. And then as Josh Brolin's running away, guy gets up again, charges him, and he picks him up and actually ragdolls him. And then he's like, God, he's so persistent. And then he's walking away, and the guy gets up again, screaming and shouting, running at him, and he ragdolls him again. Literally like WWE, like fucking suplexing him and then throwing him around. And then theater is literally laughing at all this when this is like the entire build-up. That we have built up to this moment. And it's like actually just a slapstick routine. It just feels underwhelming. Like I still think it's fun. Like, I mean, laughing at a movie is great. But if you're going there expecting horror, like a really good horror movie, I don't think that's what you're in the store for. And it's not just that scene, it's this entire sequence, the finale of all of this tension, this build-up, all of your questions being answered, but the answer just not really all that amazing. So, like, the Gladys, she's about to have Justine killed, and Alex, the one kid who did not get mind-controlled by Gladys and the magic tree, he was watching Gladys, understands how to, like, control the magic tree and use its branches, so he frees the kids, well, not frees the kids, he uses the reason the movie's called Weapons is because Gladys weaponizes people. She's able to control them and have them do whatever she wants. So Alex then uses the kids as weapons against Gladys, where they then chase her down, hunt her, and kill her. And this is I shit you not, like maybe 8 to 9 minute chase sequence of Gladys going, oh no. She literally says, oh no, when the branch breaks, when he breaks the spell and like directs the kids at her. She literally says, oh no. And then starts doing this, opens the door, running away as all the kids are chasing her, going, and she's going, So she's running away, getting chased by the kids, and then she starts, like, breaking into strangers' houses, and they play it off as a joke. So, like, there's a family, like, watching TV, and then, Gladys comes through, and they're like, oh my goodness. And she's like, and she runs through the kitchen, runs out the front door, and they're like, that was weird. And then all the kids bust through the windows and bust through the door, like, oh, Jesus Christ. And they do that for, like, 3 separate houses. There's one where a guy's mowing his lawn, sees Gladys running away going, He's like, huh. And then a horde of kids starts chasing him, and he's like, huh. Like, they play it as a joke, you know what I mean? Like, I think it's an effective comedy movie, but overall, I just felt like it was a fun movie. It was good. It wasn't, like, amazing. I definitely don't think it's the horror movie of the decade or anything. I don't even think it's the horror movie of the year. I still think Bring Her Back is a significantly better, like, horror film, but I think this was solid with the horror that was here, sprinkled throughout occasionally, and I think the comedy was solid, which is here in a bigger capacity than the horror. Like, it's to me, it's more of, like, almost a dark comedy, kind of, and I think maybe that was the goal. I didn't know that going into it based on the trailers and what people are saying about it, but after seeing it, I would definitely classify this more as like a dark comedy as opposed to some kind of like horror film. But I do think you will walk away entertained. I know I was. But yeah, I just have to disagree with the hype a little bit on this one here, sports fans. Sorry to tell you. But it's not like I was super disappointed or anything. It was still a fun time. That's really about it. So yeah. The most anticipated game of 2025 just came out, and the question begs to be asked, does it live up to the crazy amount of hype that it's been generating over the last handful of years? I got something in my eye. Oh boy, that's an eyelash in my eye. Oh, baby. Oh. And they say making videos is easy. You see that shit right there? Wow. Pardon my weakness, I had to excuse myself to the restroom to take care of that. This is a dangerous job. Don't let anyone tell you different. Heroes, really, is a term some people would use when it comes to yapping online. Anyway, Hollow Knight Silksong just came out. This game has been highly anticipated for many, many years, thus there were huge expectations put upon it by people like me, who really liked the first Hollow Knight a lot. So now that the game is here, does it live up to the expectations? Yep. I think so. I actually just finished the game and posted my whole playthrough on my gaming channel, so go check that out. Moist Critical Gaming, best gaming channel on YouTube. I started the game on stream but finished it off stream because I was just craving more of it. I was addicted to it. So the vast majority of my playthrough is recorded from off-stream gaming, which I've been doing so much more of recently. So I just beat the game and I want to give you my review of it. Or at least, I thought I beat the game. It turns out that there is a secret third act to Hollow Knight Silksong that is unlocked after finishing all of the wishes in the game, which I didn't know. I beat the game, getting to the credits rolling, and I did most of the wishes. I didn't do them all, though. If you do, you unlock the Abyss. So I'm very excited to go back and do that now. That's one of the most beautiful things about Hollow Knight Silksong. I pumped 15 and a half hours into this game, thought I beat it. Turns out there's even more content, even more meat on its bones than I thought, all for only $20. What an incredible fucking deal. The game is just so content rich. It puts a big smile on your face. I do most of my gaming blind. I don't look up a whole lot about the games or like walkthroughs or anything. Occasionally, like with Hollow Knight, there's so many secrets and stuff, I'll look up a few things. But I had no idea that there was even more content after the credits rolled if you did all of the wishes and the prerequisites to unlock it. So now I have even more to go back to and spend even more time in the game with, which I'm really looking forward to because the game is so good. So let's go ahead and dive in here. There's actually been a lot of discussion about this game being like too hard or like really unfair because it's so punishing with how everything does 2 masks worth of damage. For those that don't know anything about the game, your health is measured in masks. So something doing 2 masks worth is a big chunk of your health. And it's led to like this big discussion about, you know, the game being too hard. There's even a mod that I saw going viral that takes out double damage, like the double mask damage thing, which I'm just going to go ahead and tell you right now, that is some fucking Weenie Hut Jr. activity right there. Like, it's not the biggest deal in the world. I'm not the fucking hall monitor here to ensure that you're playing the game the way I want you to play it or whatever. Like, it's you own it, you do what you want with it. Well, you own it to a certain extent in this day and age. There's no such thing as really owning games or whatever. That's a totally separate tangent. Point is, you play it how you want to play it. Yes, the developers intended it to be played this way, out of the box, but if you have more fun taking that and making it easier, I mean, go for it. It's a single-player game. You're not ruining someone else's experience by doing it. I think it is a little bit lame. Like, what's next? You're going to just start cutting the crust off of all your sandwiches? You know, grow up. But piggybacking off of this discussion of difficulty in this game, there is something, and it's kind of like the only complaint I have about Silksong, that I think is a little overdone. And it is the 2 damage enemies. Because basically every common enemy and every single, like, obstacle in the game does 2 masks worth of damage. It's a significant chunk. Even the most throwaway trash mob in like the starting zone will be doing like 2 damage to you. Like, it is a little excessive. Do I think the game is too hard for it? Not necessarily, but it does make it annoying. Because when you are trying to explore and look for secrets or something, or you're doing like a run back to a boss, and the run backs aren't very forgiving. They are pretty long run backs in some cases where your bench is far away from where you died on that boss. So you want to just like breeze through the trash mobs to get back, but the trash mobs fucking clobber you. They wallop you for 2 masks most of the time. That's annoying. And it makes it kind of tedious for the sake of being tedious, because it's not hard to kill those trash mobs. You just don't want to spend the time to do it most of the time. So I do understand that complaint. Like, that does become a bit of a headache. Is it the biggest deal in the world? No. But especially in late game, that was like the one thing that would have me frowning. It's like, this was a great boss fight. Unfortunately, I lost. But that's not the worst part. The worst part is having to run back through to get to the boss, because I know I'm going to have to go through these fucking trash mobs that'll hit me for 2 masks if I slip up or try and get through them too quickly. That is a little annoying. That's the only like actual complaint that I have about the game. The other thing that I wasn't loving in the beginning was with your first crest, your default attacks, your moves in the beginning of the game, you don't have like a normal down air. You don't have a normal down needle attack. You always come at angles, which I didn't like. It made pogoing feel really odd to me. It just felt awkward. And as I got better at the game, that was eased, but I always preferred the original Hollow Knight down nail, so that way you could pogo more consistently and it felt more intuitive. When you get to mid-game, you unlock more crests, which are more moves for your needle, and they do have the normal down needle for normal pogoing, as well as other options. So that complaint was completely washed away by the time I made it to mid-game. So I really only have one thing that I didn't love, which is what I just mentioned. Everything else, I adore. I think this is an incredible sequel to the first Hollow Knight game. Like, there were huge expectations placed on this game. I think they delivered. I really think they fucking delivered here. I think they served us a beautiful dish. I think the game is visually stunning. I think the soundtrack goes super hard, especially towards the end of the game. They pull out all the fucking stops. Like, the music goes berserk towards the end of the game. I love the cutscenes that they've added in here. Even though I'm not overly familiar with the lore of Hollow Knight, I really enjoyed the characters here. They were extremely charming. The writing felt good. I liked the story they told here, even though, of course, I didn't grasp all of it, and I did miss things by not finishing all of the wishes and seeing through some of the character storylines. The ones that I did finish were great. The gameplay was smooth. Felt super fucking solid. That's the big star of the show here. I didn't know how much more depth you could give Hollow Knight's gameplay without completely like changing its identity, but they found a way. You can schmoove in this game. The movement was really the superstar here. Everything was so fluid, and I really think the skill expression in this game is through the roof. There's probably so many interesting combos and interesting ways of approaching combat that no two players will play the same way. Like, this is not just like a super simple game, like a super simple Metroidvania or anything. There is so much depth to what you can do in this game to squeak out damage or even just moving from point A to point B. And with so many new tools at your disposal, you can have entirely different builds than somebody else that are really creative in what they aim to do. For example, in my playthrough, towards the end of the game, I visited the architect, and one of the things I bought from them was this ability that allows me to summon saws when I do my float, which is when I jump and I hold A, now I've got my cloak fanned out and I'm floating. When I float, saws would come out which do a lot of damage to anything that they hit. Well, you can actually combo that. You can use that as a really good offensive tool in the middle of punishing an enemy. So what I could do is I could squeak out a lot of additional DPS with this, where I could sprint in, start my sprint attack, which I was using Reaper Crest, which allows me to, when I do that sprinting attack or a dash attack, it hits and then sends me up. So by default, I hit, I get sent up, and then I can immediately float after doing that, so I'm able to squeeze in more damage by floating right after doing it. So I hit, float, which summons the saws, which hits the enemy, and then I can hit again on the way down. I don't need to stay in the air. So I'm able to get like 3 hits in there, which I wouldn't be possible without having that there. And there are so many things that you can mix and match in there. Like throwable items, obviously, with the tools, but I'm even talking just like simple defensive things can completely change the way that you'll approach boss fights or even just destroying trash mobs. Because like the float saws were really good for those really pesky flying enemies that would stay just out of range or just be in a really inconvenient location. Just jump, float, hit them with the saws. And it helped solve the problem. It is just so good, the level of depth that the combat has. And the movement, too. Everything about the gameplay in this feels incredible. I am blown away by how great this game felt to play. I also want to make a mention of the bosses because there's a lot of bosses here, and I really think the vast majority of them are absolutely great. I saw some discussion around one boss in particular, Morwing. He's the flying boss who summons these projectiles that go all cattywampus, and then he like penguin belly slides across the entire screen. And people were complaining about how unfair of a boss and how shitty the design was with him. I disagree. I don't think the boss is unfair. He's challenging. Like, he's not a super easy boss, but I think there's nothing in his kit that's unfair or anything. I guess the only thing you could argue is, and this ties back to the double mask damage, when you stun him, he falls, and if you get clipped by his hitbox when he falls, you take double mask damage. That doesn't feel great. I can understand why people might be upset about that in particular, but the boss itself I don't think is like a bad design or anything. I really think 90% of the bosses in this game are really, really well designed and are really fun to fight, and it's also usually coupled with some incredible music. The one exception is there is one section towards the end of the game where the boss fight consists of just fighting like 1,000 things, and that's like the challenge of it. I hated that. And I think anyone that's completed the game is going to know what I'm about to complain about. It's going for one of the melodies. I'm not getting into spoilers for this review because I actually value this game so highly and very much recommend it, especially for the price tag that it's at. But towards the end of the game, you are required to get some melodies, and one of these certain melodies require you to go through this chaotic room, which I think is literally like 12 waves of very like aggressive mobs, many of which do double mask damage. And once you go through, I think it was 5 of those waves, you fight a boss. A big beetle with a big fucking blaster of a mace. And then once you defeat him, you then go through, I think it was 5 more waves of those strong normal mobs in order to get to another boss, which is 2 of those beetles at the same time. So they're coming out double fisting you. And this is on the back of already completing like 11 waves worth of enemies and a boss fight prior. It is very reminiscent of like the Pantheon from Hollow Knight, but this one felt worse to me. It didn't sit super well with me. I was so annoyed because it's just draining. It's not really challenging. Like the beetle itself is easy as a boss, but when you have to couple it with 5 previous waves to like whittle you down, and then you also then fight 2 of them at the same time, it just becomes like a chore and just really feels like shit. Unironically, that was probably the maddest I've been all year going through that room. It took me probably like close to 14 or 15 tries, and each try takes like fucking 15 minutes because there's so many waves. I did not like that at all. But pretty much every other like boss encounter or required room was fine. Like that's not even the only time that you go through like waves and then fight a boss. It's just the other ones was much more reasonable. It's like 3 or 4 waves and then you fight a boss and you finish the room. Is what it is. That's solid. This was just so many, and you'd fight 3 bosses, 2 at the same time in one case, after so many other waves of just mobs. But yeah, not the biggest deal in the world. I just hated that fucking room in particular and wanted to point it out. Overall, I have nothing but glaze for Hollow Knight Silksong. Overall, I had an amazing time on my first playthrough with Hollow Knight Silksong, and it's not going to be my last playthrough. I'm actually extremely excited to learn that there is an entire other section after all the wishes and stuff. Anyway, it definitely lived up to the hype. At least for me it did. And I recommend it, especially at a $20 price tag. That's great. Anyway, that's about it. So yeah. Marty Supreme. I feel like a lot of you have heard this name recently because Timothée Chalamet has done such an incredible job at generating hype for it, most notably by shouting it out multiple times on a very popular song where he collabed with an artist who a lot of people had a tinfoil condom conspiracy cooked up that he was actually this UK rapper, and then in order to dispel the rumors, he collabed with the rapper and then dropped a verse where he shouted out Marty Supreme a few times. He was on the Las Vegas Sphere shouting out Marty Supreme. And I knew nothing about this movie before all of this from Timothée Chalamet, so I went into it pretty blind. The only thing I knew about it is that ping pong was there. Boy howdy, let me tell you what, I do love me some ping pong. I'm pretty nasty at it. I can clap cheeks on the table. So that was pretty exciting as like a core component of this movie, but it's where the extent of my knowledge of Marty Supreme stopped. I just bought into the hype train because I was really entertained by Timothée Chalamet's promotions for it. So I just got back from it. It was good. Like, very good, actually. So I was talking about it on stream, and I made a comparison saying I got similar vibes watching Marty Supreme as I did to Uncut Gems with Adam Sandler. And turns out they're from the same director, which makes sense. Safdie has truly mastered the art of capturing chaos and stress and carrying that momentum throughout an entire movie without ever letting up. It is unrelenting. So Marty Supreme follows Marty Mauser, who is a narcissist douchebag. He is an absolute scumbag who uses people till they have no more things to offer him in order to elevate himself to where he believes he needs to be, which is displaying his talents, capitalizing off of his God-given ability to bend people over on ping pong tables. He is an extremely talented table tennis player, and as such, he wants to be the face of the sport that he believes is going to take over the U.S. He is uniquely positioned, as he believes, to be the best possible candidate to make table tennis even bigger than it already is. And what a fucking journey it is. There's not a ton of ping pong played in here, though when it is played, I was pretty hyped, kind of wiggling in my seat excitedly. I love ping pong, so that was fun to watch. But that's not the most important part of this. It really is a exploration of one man's fucking unhinged journey. I could never expect where the movie goes next. So, like, even from the very beginning, it immediately puts you in the middle of, like, stressful arguments. Not to the point where it becomes incomprehensible, where, like, they're just talking over each other and yelling, so you don't even know what the fuck's being said anymore. It sounds like Charlie Brown's parents. they do such a good job at capturing this chaos of like a real argument where someone's trying to like convince someone of something while the other person's trying to stand their ground. So unstoppable force meeting an immovable object, and it works really well. And it usually ends with Marty Mauser getting what he wants out of that person, whether it's, you know, some kind of partnership or some kind of handout. He's very, very good at manipulating people, either for money or whatever, for his own personal gain. But he's also just so lost in his sauce, huffing his own farts, that he will also step over the line more often than not, where he will push the person away and ruin a good opportunity for himself. Like, you always expect him to have like this come to Jesus moment where he like simmers down, calms down, and he never does. It's always just over the top, extreme. He is just such an asshole. But the film isn't just Marty Mauser using people. Like I said, you go on a crazy fucking journey that takes twists and turns I never saw coming. Like, there's this whole subplot where he goes to a hotel, and Tyler the Creator's here, which shocked the fuck out of me. Like I said, I knew nothing about this movie, so when Tyler the Creator shows up, I probably would have been less surprised if I saw my own dad in this film. I didn't see that coming at all. Tyler the Creator does like a really good job of playing with Marty Mauser here as like his cohort, where they scam together and they're good friends. And while while Marty's in the middle of turmoil where he's facing a lot of unpaid debt and he needs to find a way to get to Japan to go to the World Championship, but after what happened at the last major tournament, it's not looking real good. And so they end up at a hotel. He rents a room. He's, of course, using Tyler the Creator. He is very clearly exploiting him for his own personal gain because he needs money now and a place to stay. So while they're at this hotel, he takes a bath, which is something that the hotel owner said, do not do, don't use the bathroom. He does, and while doing so, the tub crashes through the fucking floor and blows up the dude's hand who was underneath him cleaning his dog, who we met in the lobby. The dog is fine, the dude's hand is fucked, he needs to go to the hospital, and it's just so much chaos erupting out of nowhere, and then it becomes a very big piece where he needs to take that dog to the vet because that guy whose hand just got absolutely annihilated, like it went through the goddamn wood chipper, is offering him money to take his dog to the vet because his dog is sick and needs some help. So the two of them then go take the dog, but they don't go to the vet. They use the money that he got paid for it to gamble it, not really gamble it. They go and scam others through hustling to make even more money, and when they get even more money, they get found out that they're hustlers, then they get tracked down by people who are about to beat the fuck out of them, just kill them right then and there. They escape, the dog escapes, and now the dog's lost, and now he's being hunted by the guy whose arm he broke because now his dog is missing. It is just so much that keeps happening, and every time I thought that they were giving him an out, he fucking blows it up. He ruins it. Not in like a way that doesn't make sense. It's a very Marty Mauser thing to do, to be handed an opportunity that could actually save him and actually get him out of the hole, and then just wipe his ass with it. It is just so well done. And I really think something that stood out to me a lot was the music. The music makes this so tense. It reminded me of Courage the Cowardly Dog music from time to time. They crushed it with the score. It's haunting. What will play when Marty Mauser is going through like, you know, some kind of episode. And what makes all of this work is this 1-2 combo, this fucking two-piecing here of really strong writing. Like, I actually think they did a great job with writing these characters. Like I said, I think they have mastered the art of capturing stress and, like, bringing you into the stress. And also, an incredible performance from Timothée Chalamet. Not just Timothée Chalamet, everyone really does a good job. The weakest one, probably Kevin O'Leary, but even Kevin O'Leary delivers a fine performance because he fundamentally just plays himself. There were a couple scenes where I thought for sure he was going to say, "You fucked my wife, and for that reason, I'm out." Like, it really is him just being Mr. Wonderful. So he didn't do like a poor job or anything, but everyone delivered like a top tier performance, especially Timothée Chalamet. Now, I've become somewhat of a fan of Timothée Chalamet over the last, like, year or so. I think he's been choosing, like, good projects, and he is very good in them. And I also really like how he is just very unapologetically being himself and being excited about what he's in. So, like, I saw in one of his speeches, he's like, I'm trying to be the greatest, I'm trying to be the best, and I really think I've been delivering some incredible performances. I actually really like that mentality. I feel like some people might get rubbed the wrong way that it's like, arrogant or something, but I like that. It reminds me of like an athlete or someone who is striving to be the best at what they do. And I think he really is trying to get up there with the fucking greats. And with performances like these, he shows he has the jaw for it. It shows he's got the talent. I really was very entertained by Marty Supreme. Again, I knew nothing about it going into it. I was fully open to the idea that this might just be trash that they were desperately trying to make a break even on or something with having Timothy Chalamet shouted out all the time. That's not the case. I can see why he's so proud of it. It is a very good movie. It was extremely entertaining watching Marty Mauser basically solve a problem and then immediately fuck himself in his own face right after. So, like, he is extremely good at getting people to do his bidding and putty in his hands, but he always keeps going. He doesn't know how to stop. It is just so hectic, so chaotic. So even, like, when he is in a position where problems would be behind him if he would just, call it quits right there, put the kibosh on the talking and the bravado and everything. He can't. Best example, and the one that really caught me off guard, is towards the end of the film. Spoiler warning. I've given little light spoilers. This is another like light spoiler. It's not the biggest one in the world, but just warning. As he is like on his hands and knees at his wit's end, he has to get to Japan because he needs to go to the world championship to prove he is the best in the world. But he still doesn't have the money. Everything else is crash and burned around him. Everyone has been hurt around him. His last-ditch Hail Mary was to try and manipulate Gwyneth Paltrow's character into somehow giving him the money through making him, through portraying himself as like very sympathetic and all of that, where she'd feel inclined to help. It's not really working, but eventually he weasels his way to her basically giving him a necklace that her husband gives her every year that's worth a lot of money, but she hates her fucking husband. Guy's a dweeb, tired of him. She gives him the necklace because he can sell it, get the money, go to Japan, do what he needs to do to prove his greatness. And he then kisses her. And I thought that would be the end of it. They exchange a kiss, and he now has his problem solved. And he just keeps going. So a kiss turns into him eating her out in a public park in the middle of the night. And then cops are there and they see that and they stop them both. And then they end up having to give the cops the necklace to bribe them to stay out of jail. So now he's back to square fucking one. It didn't solve his problem. And I thought for sure that's where they were going. I thought that was going to be his out. It's not. So now he still has to solve this fucking problem in another way. It is so good that the ride never stops. Even when you think you see how it's going to go, it doesn't go in that direction. I was so entertained with this movie, man. I really did like Marty Supreme a lot. Is it a perfect film? No. I think this is definitely not going to be everyone's cup of tea either. I feel like if you watched Uncut Gems and didn't like how hectic and how stressful and even at times headache-inducing a lot of the conversations and scenarios were, this movie probably will not appeal to you. It has very similar DNA to that. He's fast-talking. It's very back and forth, or even, one person trying to overpower the other in a conversation. Like, it is going to be a lot that maybe people will find to be more frustrating than entertaining. I get that. But for me, I really did like it. Had me giggling, had me entertained, and made me want to get back to practicing ping pong. It lived up to the hype. If you're watching this, Timothy Chalamet, let me know if you ever want to catch these hands at ping pong. I think I've got a real shot. I don't know if he actually plays ping pong in real life, or if this is all CGI, phony baloney, smoke and mirrors, which I doubt it. It seemed very real ping pong there for the most part. So I imagine he probably practiced a lot for the film, and I think he would be a worthy opponent. But anyway, I liked Marty Supreme. I thought it was very good. That's about it. See ya. Whoa there, Buster. That's a flag on the play. 5-yard penalty. Unnecessary frowning. Let's try and fix that attitude now, shall we? There is a game that just came out a few days ago that's got everyone smiling, it seems, to the tune of over 550,000 concurrent players at its peak. Slay the Spire 2. I've pumped about 12 hours directly into the ass of this game, and I've only just now scratched the surface. It is content rich, so much meat on the bones, and for only $22, I think it is. Let me double check. We have technology right at my fingertips. I can't remember if it's $22 or $25. And it looks like it is $25, which I think is a great deal because for the price of a single big arch burger from McDonald's, you can instead get well north of 12 hours worth of content. In 12 hours, I have only just now completed a run with the 5 main characters: Ironclad, Silent, Regent, Necrobinder, and Defect. So 12 hours, and I have completed one run with each of these 5 characters, so I've completed 5 total runs in 12 hours, which is fucking nothing. That's basically completing the tutorial for each of these characters. Like, I'm through the introduction on each of these characters, more or less. I'm only just now getting to my Ascensions, which, if you're not familiar with Slay the Spire, Ascension is what you do after you complete your first base run, going through the 3 acts. There is so much content. So I think it's a great price point for how much content you get. And I know I've kind of already whole hog, both cheeks out, dove into like my impressions of the game thus far. It's very positive. I think the game is extraordinary. And that's probably no surprise to any of you that follow my gaming channel, which all of you should be following the gaming channel, Moist Critical Gaming. I've got numerous videos up for Slay the Spire 2. I am loving it. So I wanted to give you my review of the game after 12 hours so far, because a lot of people are seeing the headlines about how popular this game is and how much it's been, going ballistic out there, and wondering, well, is the game good? Does it live up to the hype? And I'm here to tell you that, yes, I think it does live up to the hype. I really think this is something very special. If you played the first Slay the Spire, you know exactly what you're going to be getting in Slay the Spire 2, but everything is improved. The visuals, I also really like the new characters. Regent and Necrobinder, I think, are extremely fun with very, very cool mechanics. A lot of the cards have been improved. I think they've done a great job with Slay the Spire 2 across the board. There's nothing in here I think was like fumbled or lessened. I think everything has only been heightened and has been made even better. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with Slay the Spire, I'll go ahead and lay the groundwork here, the foundation here, hit you with the foreplay. It is a deck-building roguelike game, which I know in the current landscape are a dime a dozen. You can go on Steam right now and dumpster dive, finding 40 of those bitches released over the last 2 weeks. Roguelikes have become the new wave, the new hotness, and I know everything is ham-fisting roguelike mechanics into everything. But Slay the Spire is like the OG deck-building roguelike that blew up many moons ago, and the sequel, I think they carry that momentum and show why they're still like the best in the business when it comes to this genre. I really think they nail the formula, and there's just no other game I think that does it this well. I think Slay the Spire is to deck-building games what boobies are to happiness. The GOAT. Now, if you know nothing about deck building games, deck building roguelikes or anything, I'll just break it down to the bare bones. You will choose a character, and each character plays vastly different from one another. They have access to different cards, and they utilize different mechanics. And they also have a different starting relic, and relics are something that you collect throughout your runs to try and juice your shit in order to gear your build the way you'd like it to go, or, all kinds of different things. There are just so many different variations. There are so many different cards and combinations and strategies. It is just endlessly replayable. You go through Act 1, 2, and 3, killing a bunch of enemies, which will give you other cards. You'll have potions that you can utilize in the middle of combat. You'll get relics, and you will always be changing your build around. No runs ever really play the same, even if you try and do like the same thing. For example, if you're playing Necrobinder and you want to laser focus on Doom, you will never have like the same Doom run every single time, because the relics will always change. The cards you get will always change. The enemies you encounter will change. It's just so fucking fun. There is just endless depth to this game, and I can easily see this being like hundreds of hours to like really min-max everything and just fully fucking complete everything this game has to offer. In Slay the Spire 1, A20, Ascension 20 was like the max challenge there. I'm not deep enough into Slay the Spire 2 to know if that's still the case here. Maybe there's even more, I'm not sure. I'm trying to do most of this blind because I think it's much more enjoyable to go in there and like fully just have things, fucking golden shower on top of you as fresh as they can be. So I've been really enjoying like learning everything through trial and error, discovering things. It's been so fun, and I am only just now at like the very tippity top of the surface here of how much content this game has. I'm playing it daily for multiple hours a day. It's so good. So I truly do think Slay the Spire 2 lives up to the hype. I know this was many years in the making. It was worth the wait. $25 for this much content, I think, is a great price point. I love to see things like that. I know I glazed and commended Hollow Knight Silksong for something very similar, where you get so many hours of content for a low price compared to like AAA games where you'll pay like 70 or, Lord help us, God forbid, but unfortunately even $80 sometimes for like a 6-hour game or something, right? Like, I think this is just so refreshing. It's super nice and also very simple. It's a game you can enjoy with your friends. Slay the Spire 2 has multiplayer. I just tried it for the first time last night with my buddy Ryan, but it has, I think, 4-player co-op. So you can have a run with your friends too. And they scale it up so that way it's not just like a full-blown fucking steamroll. Like, there is a challenge to it. Granted, of course, since there's more of you, there is more flexibility, so you probably will have an easier time, like if you're struggling by playing solo. I know a lot of new players have found it kind of punishing, which it is, and I appreciate that. I think it's a good thing. It doesn't hold your hand and put the training wheels on or clobber you with sock'em boppers. It's giving you the raw, knuckle sandwich, and I think that's wonderful, and it will enable you to get better over time as you keep doing runs and figuring out better synergies and what cards work for what builds. It is just a game that I think is just a joy, start to finish. And like I said, the multiplayer is like a really nice cherry on top because playing with friends is a lot of fun. I had a great time playing with Ryan, and I imagine it's even better playing it in a fucking 4-stack. I bet that goes ballistic. I don't have any real complaints. Like, there's nothing in the game that I was like disappointed by. I will say that there are some cards in here that are utterly useless, just pure poop ass. Like, you will never take them in a run, and if you do, you will feel like an idiot for it. There are just some genuinely awful, terrible cards in here that I think could use a little, sprucing up, a little tuning on. But for the most part, I think they do a good job with all of the cards having a place and a role to serve and a function. Some cards obviously are much better than others, but yeah, that's always going to be the case. There's always going to be some cards that need a little tweaking, balancing, but I think just off rip here, they've done a really good job balancing things. Silent, I believe, is probably the strongest character in the game right now, but even then, I don't really think it's busted. Like, I don't think there's anything about Silent that makes it just like a complete cakewalk every single time. Like, you still need to activate neurons. It doesn't play itself. So, like, I have no problem with that being like the best character right now, and I still think it's in a good state overall in terms of balance. So I'm very happy with Slay the Spire 2. I'm really happy to see that it's doing so well right now. Over 500,000 concurrent players at peak is amazing. That's an incredible accomplishment, and I'm glad to see it holding so strong. Still over 200,000 players every single day. That's great. Hats off to the team. They knocked it out of the park. I just wanted to give you this little review as I continue to play through it, and of course post more of my runs on the Moist Critical Gaming channel. And really, that's about it. So, yeah.